Good evening, everybody. Many thanks for being here on conference with Romain Vivien, the Managing Director of Belive France and also board member of the Director de la Musique. We will start rapidly with Fabrice Vink, who is the president of the Essec and Mannheim Executive MBA Alumni Association, for a very short presentation, and then I will be back with Romain talking about Belive and this unbelievable business story. Fabrice, back to you.
Thank you, Luca. I'm pleased to welcome you to this event this evening in the name of Essec and Mannheim MBA Alumni. The association is here for you, and we facilitate connections. We organize events like roundtable seminars or after work that shall hopefully become more and more regular. Do not hesitate to contact us if you want to contribute with your experience or your expertise. We'll be pleased to hear from you. These events are open to all, whether you are an Essec or Mannheim alumni or not. You can follow our activities on LinkedIn, on our public page or private group. If you are an Essec and Mannheim executive alumni, you can access to the private group, and you can scan Luca at the moment because you have the QR code right behind him in the background. I encourage you to update your profile and discover the services in the Essec alumni website. If you want to actively network, I encourage you to update your name in the Zoom session. And then I believe that it's the right time to hand over to Luca, who spent a lot of energy to organize this event. Luca, thank you for your engagement and efforts. And I would like also to thank warmly our guest speaker this evening, Romain. And basically, guys, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fabrice. Thank you very much. Well, Romain, as usual, we know that we will reach our peak of our participants maybe in a couple of minutes due to different constraints. But let's start right now. So we have seen Belive growing in the last 20 years, and I would like to start with you with a question that probably is top of mind of everybody here around. So what have been the main ideas that you had when Belive was created?
It was basically to find a place in the industry and the ecosystem and the value chain, considering that some key changes will appear into the industry, and that key change started with the fact that we, without the consumption, would rapidly transfer from a physical world to the digital world. And when you look at this, the first thing we thought would drastically change and where we had a place to grab was to build a technological and distribution company. Why? Because digital opens the door to an unlimited numbers of creators, because there's less barriers and constraints to make yourself available on the platforms than it used to be in the physical world, if you build the technology properly. Because manufacturing a CD and the logistic of distributing a CD or a vinyl in the shops is a cost. Like digitalizing some content and distributing some content on the download platforms at the time, and now the streaming platforms, audio and video, if you build the technology, could be done for cheaper money and could be done on a very, very scalable way. So our thought was, all right, let's build the technology that will allow us to put ourselves on the map and act as a distributor to represent the smaller artist and the smaller producer, because the big ones would have enough money to build the technology, but the smaller ones would not. So that's what we've done. And we said also that digital will transform the value chain and the way the value created by selling music should be distributed. and should be paid to the creators. So our second assumption was like, okay, let's build that technology and let's make sure the artists and the creators will get a higher percentage from the revenue than in the physical world. And to do so, we also thought that was the third key point. The sense, I mean, the story is that more and more artists would want to become independent. More and more artists would want to become their own producer. And this is where this should be our first client. And this is where they could do a lot without a record company. There's one thing they can't do alone, was to distribute themselves on the platforms, just because the platforms were not giving commercial terms and contract to everyone. So this was the first idea. So we created this in France back in 2005. It's not quite 20 years, it's 16 years. Starting with the technology and a capacity to digitalize content, distribute content. And the goal was to acquire as fast as possible a market share, enough market share so we could negotiate and be seated at the table with Apple and then Google and Deezer and Spotify and everyone else to negotiate some good terms so we could increase the value we were creating and redistributing to the creators. And the last point, which is very, very important, is that we wanted to do this with full transparency, meaning that in the music business, still today, but definitely a lot more before, it was a lot of blur lines and not clarity and transparency between creators on one hand and their record company on the other hand. So we created the technology and the backstage that allow every single client of ours, and we represent dozens of artists across the world, was to have access to a platform so they could follow every single transactions and the way their content were monetized on any single service across the world. So those were the first key point, and this is how we started.
Oh, this is great, Romain. And because we are already talking about Believe. Maybe I change a little bit instead of jumping to the second question. Can you share what is Believe today? What is your so we know that you are a giant. Now you have become a giant in production, distribution, and promotion of music. But can you give us maybe a very short overview of the company today before jumping back?
Well, we have 3 different levels of services, and we build the company and we recruit the people and we organize our teams to be able to deliver those 3 levels of services with one goal and one goal only, which was to be able to serve any given artist at any level, any stage of his development for any kind of music anywhere in the world. To do that, you need to have people on the ground, and you need to make sure your layers and level of services are adapted to the needs of the artist and works well from an economic standpoint. So right now we have 3 main level of services. The first one, it's the one we called automated solution, which is any artist creators could come online on TuneCore, which is a US company we bought in 2014, and created himself an account and distribute his music everywhere in the world on all the streamings and download platforms for a flat fee per singles or album. And then he will get back 100% of the net receipt we will produce on the streaming services. So this one is automated because we don't filter artists. We don't bring any other services than pure distribution. So making the music and the content from those creators available on those services. Then we have our core business, which is the one we started with back in 2005, which is distribution. And there we represent thousands and thousands of artists and labels and producers across the world. And on this one, we not only we are distributing their content, but also we are working what we call trade marketing, meaning that we are pushing their content across the platforms for those contents to get the more visibility as possible. So in the streaming world, it's basically to have their songs placed in the as the highest rank as possible in the playlist that everyone is listening to on Deezer, Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And then the last layers is the one I actually built myself when I joined the company. I mean, a couple of years after I joined the company, which we call the artist services. And on this one, we are delivering distribution, trade marketing, but also everything else, everything that an artist needs, and that he used to have in the in a standard model of a label, meaning marketing, meaning digital marketing, meaning money to produce content, collecting rights, video productions, and sometimes branding, synchronizations, and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, this is who we are. This is about to serve any kind of artist, and with 3 levels of services, with dedicated teams and people for each level of services, just to make sure we serve the artist with the right level of expertise at every level of services we want to provide, which needs to match against 2 important things: the needs of the artist, which depends on its environment, his capacity to produce, his capacity to invest, and an economic equation, because we want to be able to serve an unlimited numbers of artists, but making sure it makes sense for each of them from an economic standpoint. So to answer your questions, we don't think we have competitors, because we think we have very, very strong competition on level 1, level 2, or level 3, sometimes level 2 and 3, sometimes level 1 and 2, but we don't see anyone that is delivering that all the services to such a numbers of different creators and artists across the world in all the regions we do so. So we have direct competition on 1 or 2 of those levels, but none of our competition is actually delivering such a large and different and specific type of services and expertise. But basically, at the end of the day, 15 years after or 16 years after, our main competitors are the majors. So Universal, Sony, and Warner. We're considered as the fourth major. I don't like that word, because I think there's a lot of things behind that word that doesn't match our DNA, that doesn't match our mission, doesn't match the way we want to serve the artists. But in terms of global presence, and in terms of market share, and in terms of local presence as well in many markets and regions, this would probably be true to say that we are the fourth biggest player in the world.
And congrats, because this has been a remarkable achievement. Well, let's jump back now in the past. We started with the first question, talking about the basic ideas that developed then the company. So, but what are right now the main development axes that you have put in place for Belive?
The 3, I guess. Well, there's a few more, but really, since day one, we had 3 axes, 3 ways of developing the company, 3 big ideas to develop the company. The first one is technology. And the first one is to build the technology, to build the services, and to build the capacity to deliver an unlimited numbers of content to an unlimited numbers of services to an unlimited country, and to serve an unlimited numbers of artists. And that is only possible because of the technology, because otherwise too complicated, too expensive, lots of reasons. So the first one was to build that technology, and that technology allows us now to source artists better and earlier, to provide them with the correct backstage and visibility on their revenue, and to put together the right level, the right campaigns in the digital world, which is much more complicated and technological than in the physical world. So technology was the first one. The second one was international. I mean, there's no way to build a technology if it can't serve as many artists as possible in any region of the world. Also because the way the music is being discovered and consumed in a digital world is much faster and with much less boundaries than in the physical world. So we thought, all right, to be a key player, we need to be international. So we need to develop ourselves very, very fast and international. And the second reason why we've done that is that, historically speaking, if you look at the way that business and that industry is organized and structured, the majors had huge presence in North America and in Europe. But in LATAM and in Eastern Europe, in India, in China, in Southeast Asia, their presence was weak compared to North America and Western Europe, and was not, most of the cases, was not organized through their own setup and organization, but they were working with local big independent label. So we thought the faster we go on those markets where the presence, the presence of the merger is weaker, B, the market is owned by big independent and local artists, and C, those countries will benefit at a higher scale at some point in time, at a higher scale of the digital, the increase of the market, and the market grows because of the market switching from a physical consumption to a digital consumption. Then we have an opportunity, and that's what we started to do back in 2004. We built Italy. 2006, sorry, Italy. 2008, Germany. We bought a company there. And starting 2009, we opened countries every quarter, starting with UK, and then Russia, and then every country in Southeast Asia. I know we have presence in 52 different countries in the world. So international was the second point. The third point is pretty much the one I described earlier, which is we need to go back. We need to address the market at every stage, at every level. So being a digital distributor is not enough. It's not good enough. We need to build the rest of the expertise to be able to serve bigger artists or to serve smaller artists, and that's why we bought TuneCore in 2014. So the third layer was really to build that capacity and that expertise through teams, and which have consequences on the type of contract we use, etc., to be able to enlarge our level of services and to be able to attract more artists and bigger artists and be more competitors to the majors. And that's what we've done. And since 5, 6, 7 years, country per country, market per market, we are taking artists away from the majors because we build that level of services. This was the three key pillars of our growth and strategy. And obviously what we want to do now, what we started to do couple of years ago, and what we want to continue to do, is to diversify our sources and revenue stream. So we're looking at live, we're looking at publishing, we're looking at live streaming, we're looking at NFTs, we're looking at developing a lot of innovation and building technological platforms and product that would serve the creators more and more in the future, and being very innovative in the way we are dealing our contract with the platforms, because you have the pure player on one hand, Deezer, Spotify, and Apple, and you have a very strong and newcomers on the market, which are mixed platforms, which are media and also starting to monetize music more and more, as TikTok, as Facebook, as Instagram, as Snapchat. So it takes a lot of innovation to understand how those guys are working, just to make sure we are addressing them the best way as possible, and we're communicating to our artists and labels the way those guys are working. So we're making sure we address them the best way as possible and the most efficient way as possible.
Absolutely fantastic again. And you beyond the three main levels, you mentioned a lot of new drivers for growing the business. So thank you very much for this inside view. Well, you talk about the majors that are competitors, but not on the three levels that you mentioned. What are the differentiators the main differentiators between you and the other and the majors, the three majors that you mentioned?
Well, I think we're a digital first company. That's the main one, which is probably summarize everything else. We're a digital first company from our technology, from the expertise we build, from the product we are building as well, from the people we are recruiting, from the way we are investing our money, from the artists we are sourcing, from the deal terms we are negotiating, etc., etc. Being a digital first company, if you have the right approach and the right strategy and the right expertise and the right product, allow you to go faster than the majors, allow you to spot earlier the artist that's going to become big in a few months, a few years. So to source and sign them earlier, and to put the most efficient campaign that will allow those artists to grow their audience faster than the competition. Because it's all about the audience. It's all about being able to maintain the relationship and the connection with that audience. I always say to my team, hey, don't talk to me about selling music. Talk to me about building audiences, and talk to me about knowing who that audience is, and talk to me about the ways you're gonna engage with those community and those audiences. And if you manage to do that, you're gonna sell music, you're gonna sell concert tickets, you're gonna sell merchandising, you're gonna sell digital goods. You'll be able to grow the audiences of your artists and monetize that audiences better. And I think this is exactly what we are trying to do. The other thing is, again, which is what I touched on it earlier, it's transparency. We live in a world where transparency is key, and not only in our business. We suffered for decades of non-transparency for the majors. You see that every day on the press and on TV and in the streets and in the conversation. People need transparency. They need to know what they are buying. They need to know what's happening. They need to learn about what's happening, etc. So our DNA and the way we build relationship with our client, whether those are artists or the platforms we work with. We have two types of clients. We're sitting in the middle of those two, the artists on one hand and the DSPs and platforms on the other hand. It's about transparency, and it's about building that trust and that relationship that will be very important, because there's a very strong competition on the market. So we need to make sure we are retaining the artist and that they stay with us in the long term, because this is how we take the best of it.
Fantastic vision, and also competitive advantages against your competitors. What are your stakes today, Romain? That means enjeux.
What?
Stakes.
Oh, yeah. Stakes and challenges. Well, it's there's a lot. First of all, you know, I would lie if I was saying we're the only one to think that way now. Everyone is just understood that the world is going digital in the music industry, that content is king, that audience is king, that data is king, and that understanding the algorithm and the way the DSPs are working is king. So we need to keep pace and space between us and our competitors in the way we are dealing with artists, and the way we are developing our technological product, in the way we are negotiating our deal terms with the platforms, and in the way we are serving the artist better. And that's a very, very tough challenge, because I spent 25 years of my life working in the music industry, 27 exactly. And when I started, it was a very nice market. And then I suffered from 10 years of crisis where the industry was divided by 2.5 because of the crisis, because of MP3 and etc. And the market went down. Since 5 years now, the market is growing. And since 2 years, it's growing very, very fast. It's growing 20, 25, 30% a year. That means that creates a lot of opportunity, that creates a lot of eagerness from the ecosystem. And that means there's a lot of money out there. And there's a lot of investors that are willing to invest into the music industry because suddenly, again, the music industry and ecosystem is bankable. So if you look at the most biggest changes in the past few years, you would see that everyone is just running after catalogs. We've seen some huge announcements of huge stars such as Bob Dylan, or most recently Elton John is in discussions, or Bruce Springsteen and others to sell their catalog. So there's willingness to acquire more catalog, and there's a lot of money out there. And so there's a goal for us that we can't access those big artist catalog. So we need to make sure that we are the first and the best in class to serve all the other artists and the newcomers, because one of our mission as well is to develop diversity. We think the majors are not serving that goal. They are more engaged and focused on bigger pop act and international act and mainstream artists. And we think the ecosystem of the music would suffer if there's there's not enough segmentation. And we think it's very, very important in every market in the world to have diversity. So we are here to serve the smaller. We are here to serve every kind of music genre. That's what we bought Naive in France, which has a great classical and jazz repertoire. We bought Nuclear Blast in Germany, who has a great metal and hard rock repertoire. We bought Venus in India, which is a Bollywood kind of concert repertoire, etc., etc. So this is also a mission that we have. And the other type of players that are coming back in the market now, which is the case in any given market, which is back on growth, are the fundraising and the VC funds and some private company that are investing millions and dozens of millions into the market and into catalogs, etc., because they are acting as VC fund, and they are looking at the market as a very profitable market with multiples over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So they say, well, okay, instead of putting my money in tech companies or in car companies or wherever, I can bet and put some money on the music industry. Why? Because every statistic is saying that the market's going to triple by 2030. So that means there's new players with tons of money on the market, which are very, very aggressive. And we need to keep pace with those ones as well. And that's why we went public, last June. And one of the reasons why we raised 300 million. Why? Because we need to continue to invest. We need to continue to invest in our technology, in our technological platforms. We need to continue to invest in our local and global organization in every key territories, in hiring the best people in the market, which is sometimes very, very difficult in some regions. And we need to be able to invest in artists and creators, and also to invest in our M&A strategy, because there's a lot of opportunity out there. And we know at some point that we need to keep pace with those ones and making sure our market share is still growing, because market share gives you a lot of leverage to develop your business.
Absolutely remarkable. Well, Romain, I think that you touched a lot of the point of the next development steps, because you mentioned keep the pace with investors, invest in new digital capabilities. Would you summarize maybe here now in the next 10 minutes, what are the main development axes that you have in mind today for Belive? summarizing that? Maybe just
Yeah,
bullet
yeah. Well, there's still a lot to be done in our international expansion, and I think there's still a lot of opportunity there. Why? Because most of the markets are not mature from a digital standpoint, meaning that US is pretty mature, Scandinavia is pretty mature, UK is pretty mature, but that's about it. What I'm saying this is that we think and we say that a market is mature when at least 25 to 30% of the active population has a subscription with Deezer, Spotify, or Apple and is consuming music digitally. We are very, very far from those numbers in most of the markets, including France, where we're around 12 million subscribers out of a 67 millions, well, let's say 50 millions active population. So you see there's a lot of room there for expansion. And being a mature market is that the digital market should be way above physical market, which is not totally the case in many markets, such as Italy, such as Japan, and Japan is the second biggest market of music in the world. So you see there's a lot of opportunity there as well. So we need to that's expanding internationally with the right technology and the right approach of being attractive for the local artist community is key, and it's the #1 priority to grab as much value as possible on the what that remains to be grabbed, and there's a lot. And if you look at other regions, you see what we've done is that we analyze the way and the curve of the market growth and the main step of a market becoming mature, becoming digital, and etc. And it's always the same. It's always about the DSP being proactive in the market, people like us being proactive about the local artist community, and audiences and the public to embrace the technology to consume music digitally. And for that, they need device, they need platforms, they need offers, and we are there to provide the offer with the local artists. But you can see that Africa, for example, is a huge, culturally, historically speaking, it's a huge musical continent with a lot of very good artists, lots of music, etc. But it's not monetizing. It's consuming, but it's not monetizing. Spotify, Deezer, and Apple are barely there. The market is 60% up to YouTube. Why? Because it's kind of free for the people. They go out there and they stream on YouTube, and a stream on YouTube for the freemium offer is giving you 10% of what a premium subscription gives you when it streams music. So you see that market is not mature. So we are starting to invest as well here, because we need to be there first, just to make sure we are engaged with the local artist community. And the more the market's gonna structure itself and become mature, and we'll be there. That's what we've done, going very early on in Russia, in India, in China, and that's what we need to continue to build. So there's a lot of things, and the other thing is everything which is related to innovation and digital marketing. And we're very at the start of it. There's so much things coming in the way people tomorrow will discover music and the way we can monetize music. I mean, NFTs, I'm sure you've seen there's billions happening on the NFTs right now, which is, and it's only the start of it. So what does that mean in the music world? How can we transfer that to create value for the artist? How does that work with the audiences of the artist, etc., etc.? And what's the equation here? So there's still a lot that needs to be done. And so innovation going through our platforms, but also, again, being the first to embrace new technologies is is also very, very key, and will also become very, very key. And the last part is, we started as a distribution company. We acquired TuneCore in 2014 for another type of solution, and we build the higher level of services, for acting as a label for the artist. None of those two last services, so the artist services on top and the TuneCore ones below, has been totally deployed in every country we operate in. The distribution part and the distribution piece of our business is there everywhere, with people on the ground in every key market. But there's still a lot of country to open and to be developed in the two other layers of our services, which are very complementary to the one in the middle, to the distribution one. And that's also a lot of growth. And there's a time to market for that, because more and more market are developing themselves, are becoming mature. And of course, the competition also, because there's a lot of money available now for everyone. We've seen that Universal is a public company now, Warner is a public company, Sony have a lot of money, VC funds investing a lot. So there's a time to market to go faster than the other, with the right solution for the artist in every key market, again, with those three levels of services, just to make sure we are strengthening our position in all those markets.
Thank you very much, Romain, for this fantastic overview of this business industry related to music. Very, very interesting. So let's. I've seen that some questions are right in the chat, and I would like to call, if Patrick Mouringer is there, I will open your microphone. One interesting question from your side. Let me see. Okay, you should be able, Patrick.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I will put also the camera. First of all, thank you very much for this initiative. It's very, very, very interesting. It's lovely to understand the business of Belive and the success they have had. So really, really thank you for that. I asked a question, Romain. You spoke a little bit before about, I kind of understand verticalizing the audience, so that you know who you speak to, and by the fact that you know who you speak to, then you are able maybe to develop a little bit more your business model by selling other stuff than music, live, for example, goods and other stuff. Lots of platforms went on the web since the year 2000, something like this. I was thinking about Reverb Nation, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and I'm suddenly forgetting a lot of them. What are they for you? Are they partners? Are they competitors? Are they both? Are they eventually targets?
It's a good question. Some of them used to be targets, but we never, at the end of the day, we never acquire any of those. Most of them are clients. And if we take SoundCloud, for example, SoundCloud is a partner. So we monetize music on SoundCloud and we deliver music to SoundCloud. So SoundCloud is one. The others are pretty much partners in a way that they could be partners in solution for our artists and producers to develop their audience as well, or to expand their capacity to expose their content. But yeah, I would say this is the one. And on the data and everything, I think knowing the audience is a key point, because and that's something which is totally different from the physical world again. Because nobody knew who was buying your CD at Fnac or at Carrefour or Auchan. And now you have tons of information. And that information is out there. It requires a lot of technology to be able to grab it. But most importantly, it requires a lot of expertise to know what to do with it.
Yeah, to
exactly, to know what to do with it and to leverage it. So and that's also part of our positioning and technology. We go and grab data and information directly, linking our services to the API of all the services, and we grab tons of information. So right now, I can give back to the teams and to the artists a lot of information about who's streaming their music. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Is it on iOS? Is it on another system? Which song in which country for how long? Did they put that track in their library or not? Did they skip it? Did they like it? Did they share it, etc., etc. So those other solutions you mentioned, some of them are using those ones, and almost all of them need to be seen as a mix of various things. In the old world, you had shops, retailers, and media. Right now, they all mix together because YouTube is four things. It's a media because you promote things and you reach audiences. It's a shop because you monetize music. It's a commercial platform because you can sell something with links to merchandising and stuff or concert tickets. And it's a CRM platforms and it's a social network. So you need to embrace those 5 key areas. And that's the same with Instagram or TikTok. And for certain part, same for Spotify and Deezer and Apple. They also act as social networks, and they also are media that are promoting music. So it's La Fnac plus Energy or Skyrock, all in the same place. And that gives you a totally, that require you to embrace the market and the way you are marketing your artists totally differently. And that's what we're trying to do. And when you understand that, you can, as you said earlier, we can monetize a lot of things, and there's going to be a lot more changes. They all have their specificities. I mean, Deezer wants to be strong on video as Apple wants. Facebook bought Instagram, and they're very strong with Shorts, which YouTube is trying to compete them with right now because they just launched Short a few weeks ago. Spotify is all about podcast. So podcast, for example, what does that mean in our world? That means a lot. That means some of those podcasts would need music. So that needs the opportunity to synchronize music. And there's probably also, a big question here is what's the economic model of the podcast? Right now, it's through investors and publicity. Tomorrow, if that goes through a subscription model, then where will the money go? Like you buy yourself a subscription at Spotify, and right now all of your money goes to the music, but you still can consume podcast, but none of your money of your subscription goes to the podcaster. Tomorrow, if Spotify decide that your subscription should go exactly where you spend your time, let's say 30% of your time is on when you are on Spotify is for podcast and 70% for music, then 30% of your subscription will go to podcast. And that's a trade for us. So there's still a lot to come from those platforms, which would want to become more and more multimedia platform, I think. If you compare what's happening in the music world to what's happening in the movie world, it's very different. I would compare Deezer, Spotify, and Apple in their commercial priority and in the way they address the market exactly as Orange, SFR, and Bouygues and whatever wireless carrier. Why? Because they're all about grabbing new customers,
new subscription,
new subscribers. So all their marketing money goes into this. Yeah. But the offer on the platform is pretty much the same from a music standpoint.
Yes.
All right, Spotify have some podcasts, some others a video, but at the end of the day, when we deliver a track to Spotify, we also deliver it to Deezer and Apple and everyone else. So the offer is the same. So their only way to grab new customers, exactly as SFR and Orange, is the price.
The price.
The family price, 6 months trial, etc. So that means that your value for your unique value for customers is your ARPU, so average revenue per users, is going down because they decrease their pricing. But as soon as the market will be mature and that people will have chosen their subscription, they will have to find other ways to grab new subscription or new subscribers or new subscribers away from competition. And that will definitely go through editorial and content, which is exactly what you see in the audiovisual world. Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Canal Plus, whoever, OCS, they have a catalog that they distribute, but they also invest a lot because they produce original content, and that's probably the next step.
Can I ask a second question? Or
Patrick, I was also inviting all the others to post their questions. We have time, so we can use the 14 minutes remaining. Please, Patrick.
okay, so the second question was, and you mentioned that before, music has gone electronic or digital, which means it's the open door of a lot of musicians, which, by the way, are very often suddenly going down in terms of age, because they can buy them stuff to be able to do music very, very early and then distribute with the services like TuneCore as a do-it-yourself. The consequence of it is that we certainly never had that much music. There is music anywhere, and it has a consequence for an artist thinking that it might be famous because of his content, which is he is completely noyé, for those who understand the French, amongst a big overwhelm, yes, among a big an ocean of music. How do you deal with that, or you just don't care because your job is to grab as much as artists as possible to make the company grow?
Well, it's not that. On the TuneCore level, and until a certain point on the distribution part, it's about volume. Mm-hmm. But on our artist services part, it's not about volume.
Yeah, it's different. I do agree.
It's totally different. And on this one, the strategy is to build brands, to buy brands, or to build brands. Like in France, for example, we have 3 label brands. We have Naive that we bought, we have Animal 63, which we build, and we have Old Punch, which we build organically. And those 3 are addressing different type of music. We have the same in Germany, we have the same in other countries. So it's the way to address diversity, and it's the way to create brands that are attractive for artists.
Okay. And do you feed yourself for your labels in the different countries through the layers that are under?
Exactly. And that's the other point and the beauty of the model, and the reason why we created the 3 levels of services, which is one of a kind compared to the competition, as I said earlier, is that the idea behind this, obviously, and of course, is to use TuneCore to source artists for distribution, and to use TuneCore and distribution to source artists for artist services. And sometimes it works the other way around. Sometimes, we sign artists on artist services, but at the end of the day, they organize themselves, they structure themselves along the way, and they want more independence, and they want a higher revenue share, and they organize themselves on to provide some of the services that they used to need from us. And so we switch them back to distribution because that model fits best. And again, first question we ask to the artist is, what do you need? How can we help you? What's your organization? Who do you work with? What are you capable of doing? What are you capable of financing? All right, you do this and this, but you don't do that and that. So we think the model you need to work with us is this one. But it's different from one artist to another, and there's a lot of differences there, and that's why we also we started to think about creating sub layers in those 3 services. Like on TuneCore, for example, we are offering more services now. We offer to administrate their publishing rights. We offer to distribute them on the social networks, which is brand new. We announced that last week. So we give them more and more services. At the end of the day, we need every one of those 3rd level of services to grow. So TuneCore needs to offer more, distribution needs to offer more, artist services needs to offer more, and everyone needs to grow and to be more accurate and competitive and attractive for the artist community, again, at every stage. And we're creating, sub-level of services, but with very drastic business rules and SLA and KPI, because again, because we want to do that at a very high scale, we need to make sure we have this is sustainable from an economic standpoint,
Yeah.
and that is possible due to the technology and very, very strong business rules.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Patrick, too, for your questions. So I have a question now, Romain. I will ask you to put the cap of not only managing director at Belive, but also board member of the Levitragela Music. So you have seen many artists during these years, and I'm curious to know your opinion on the possibility of we know. Let me structure the question in this way. We know that music has been for a long time a place where image is linked to the success of the artist, not only the voice and the quality of the music, but now more and more we see with this lower layer of artists that are not the major ones that are already known by the public. We see people coming up in later years of their lives. Have you seen artists that started later on their career being successful? You see what I mean? I mean, normally an artist starts when he is very young.
No, I totally see what you mean, but I'm just trying to find some example, and I don't have a lot on top of my mind right now. And I'd say in the digital world, at least until now, because things are starting to change, but in the digital world, there was a prime of younger artists. Why? Because they were perfectly understanding the way the digital world was working and the way to leverage and use the social networks and the rhythm of productions and building audiences with their fans and a relationship with their fans. So you've seen emerging a complete new generation of artists which are very young, and they were the ones that were taking the most of the digital world and the streaming world, because the people that are starting to use the streaming services are young people. So I'd say that today in the ecosystem and the digital world, it would probably be even more difficult to start a musical career at a certain age than it used to be in the past. I'm not saying this is not possible. I'm not saying there's no cases. I'm sure there are. I can't find any right now, but I'm sure there are. But I would probably say that it would be even more difficult today than 10 years ago or 30 years ago.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And
but the point behind your question maybe is that one of the not the question, but one of the what's very important is, and which at some point became a problem and an issue, is how the artists that started their career 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago could still be relevant and could still reach an audience in the digital world, and that's very difficult. So for the ones that have a very strong repertoire and a very strong fan base, this is okay because they are making most of their money from touring. Well, not in the past 2 years because of COVID, but other than that, they do. But otherwise, this is not easy, because the most difficult things in our business and for an artist is to develop a career over time. If you look at the numbers of people that have a long-term career, there's less and less of them. Like in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, you've seen all those bands, they were there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. There's less and less of those ones because there's more and more music produced, and it's more and more complicated to sustain a career over time. And that's the most difficult part. And that's a common responsibility and challenge for us, but also for the creators, because they need to keep to stay relevant for their audiences, and that's what very, very difficult. And we've seen that digital created a lot of opportunities in our ecosystem for artists, but it also created a lot of issues for a certain generation of artists.
And this despite the fact that maybe focusing on understanding who is the cohort of buyers, it's still difficult. I mean, to launch a career later on time.
Yeah, because you know, it's and this is also why we build the third layer of services, because it's not enough to get yourself distributed, because you're in the middle of an ocean of content. So when you're available, I mean, being available is one thing, but reaching an audience and monetizing that audience is another thing, and it's much more complicated.
Thank you. I think that we have the time for a very last question that we have from Christian Riedi. Christian, can you hear us?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Hi, Christian. Please go on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Romain. It was very instructive and very insightful to have the perspective from Belive. You touched the issue about NFTs. Can you, to be honest and full disclaimer, I'm currently building a platform in the music NFT world. Can you speak a little bit about the Belive's perspective on NFTs and what kind of opportunity it raises for your group?
Sure. Well, to be very honest, I'm not sure yet. What I know is that this will create opportunities, and that we need to be on top of it, and that we're spending a lot of time on analyzing all the solutions and trying to understand how this works and how it will work in the future from an artist standpoint and an audience standpoint and a monetization standpoint. So what we decided to do since a few months is to multiply conversation with people that are in that world to better understand the product, the opportunity, and their business models, and how should we approach this. So that goes with testing a lot of things. So we're testing some things with artists in France, in Germany, in other countries. Many types of different type of campaigns on putting some NFT product on the market. And there's multiple example within the competition with artists in the music business, but also in the art business, in the gaming business, in the sport business, etc. So right now, I think we are into phase one, analyzing, understanding, and testing. And when we will have done that, it's going to take another couple of months. We'll decide about two things. Hey, are we building that business, or are we investing in an existing business, or partner with an existing business, or buying an existing business, if we think this would create extra value, which I think at some point will, even though it's going to take some time, for it to be scalable. We don't want a solution that will serve a couple of artists. We want a solution that would serve and make sense for as many artists as possible that we represent. Otherwise, we will put some campaigns together with partners on a one case per case basis, but we won't invest on a technology or platforms. But if we feel there's an opportunity for us to to move and to be more innovative and be able to serve and monetize the content of our artists better at a larger scale, we probably will invest. And that's the way I see it. So right now we are, I'm receiving almost every day, let's say every week, people that are saying, hey, let's meet. I'm into the NFTs, blah, blah, blah. So there's lots and lots of initiatives. Some of them seems interesting. Some others I'm not that convinced. So we put together a work group, and they are analyzing all of those. And then they report to us, and we'll take some decision at some point.
Very clear. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christian. We are at the top of the hour, very sharp. Thanks a lot, Romain, for all this vision of the industry and the digital changes that you're bringing to the market. All the best for the success of Believe in the future, and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Luca, and thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.